Good morning, I'm Chris Wilkinson. I'm going to talk about the Guangzhou IFC. And as a founding principal of Wilkinson Air Architects, I get involved in a lot of projects around the world of different sizes and uses, from small-scale cultural buildings to infrastructure projects and large-scale commercial projects. And I really believe that the time is right for high-rise developments, especially in China. Tall buildings, I think I need my glasses. Tall buildings have always been an expression of power and confidence. So it's inevitable that the expanding cities of mainland China should look towards high-rise and super high-rise developments. Towers provide extremely high density, which takes the pressure off land shortages, and they grace the skyline, offering a new and exciting identity. Is that better? However, this only works with innovative and exciting architecture. When a tower rises above the cityscape, it has a responsibility to make a positive contribution, and a grouping of towers should make a visually acceptable composition. The architecture of super high-rise towers, however, is challenging. In some ways, it's an expression of the latest technology, but it also has symbolic overtones which relate to cultural aspirations. Examples such as the Jinmao Tower that we're in now and the Petronas Towers in Kuala Lumpur have used symbolic gestures to help them relate to the local context. I'm not saying that's wrong, but there is an argument suggesting that high-rise towers should relate more to an international context. Their form would be technologically based, more like a car or an airplane, which have a functional aesthetic without the need for embellishment. An aerodynamic shape being more efficient in terms of the size and weight of structure required to deal with the loads and horizontal wind forces. This theory is borne out by history, which reveals that whilst in Chicago and New York, towers used new framing concepts for the structure but retained highly decorative traditional heavy masonry cladding. The architecture of later towers changed considerably with the introduction of modern curtain walling, which offers more lightness, efficiency, and a new aesthetic was created. Cladding systems are continuing to evolve and offer new possibilities for the design of towers. The decision on the amount of complexity or simplicity is down to architectural preference. The architect puts forward his ideas, which are either accepted or rejected. Our design for the Guangzhou International Finance Centre, seen here, makes a case for an aesthetic that aims for an elegant simplicity, but expresses the function, structure, and components of construction in a clear and direct way. The project was won in an international competition held by the city planners in 2004 for a mixed-use development of approximately 450,000 square meters to include a tower of 235,000 square meters on the Zulang New Town site in Guangzhou. This was part of a strategic master plan to consolidate a new civic and financial center around a grand central park developed for the Asian Games of 2010. This was our competition-winning scheme for twin towers. In fact, they proceeded only with one, and the second one will follow. And Wilkinson Air were appointed by the Yuzhou Property Group as architects for the development in a joint venture with Arup Hong Kong, as engineers, and the South China University Design Institute. The project started on site in December 2005. On a site of 31,000 square meters, the development includes a retail mall, conference center, and serviced apartments in a podium, together with a tower containing offices and hotel. The tower, which has 103 floors, reaches a height of 437.5 meters, making it the fourth tallest building in China and the ninth tallest in the world at that time of completion. Now, of course, it's way down the list. The upper 33 stories are occupied by the Four Seasons Hotel, which has a full-height central atrium rising from the reception lobby on the 70th floor, a height of 115 meters, which is tall enough to accommodate the dome of St. Paul's Cathedral in London. The lower 69 floors of accommodation, a net 167,000 square meters, are of multi-let office space around a central core. In concept, it's much the same as this building we're in, which set the trend. The plan, which is a curved trochoid, was developed to deal efficiently with external wind forces, as well as providing a flexible arrangement for incremental letting. In wind tunnel tests, this shape was found to be extremely efficient in shedding wind load. In section, the external walls curve out from the ground floor to a maximum girth at approximately 1/3 of the height, then taper gently to the top, where they merge with the sky. The resultant form, which was determined by 3D computer modeling and rapid prototyping, these are just some of the prototypes we made, looks deceptively simple, but is based on a complex toroidal geometry, with each of the three facades set out on a radius of 5.1 kilometers vertically, and with a radius of 71 meters in plan and 10 meters on the corners. I love geometry, and I love exploring the potential that you can with computer 3D modeling. It's a huge opportunity to explore new space. The building's shape is emphasized by the smooth glass cladding, which is made up from 1.5 meter wide repetitive floor-to-floor height glass panels, which are narrower on the tighter radius corners. A considerable amount of time was put into achieving standardization in order to keep the costs down. With a surface area of 80,000 square meters, it would be prohibitively expensive to incorporate too many special sizes. And we achieved 90% repetition from 4 standard panel sizes. The cladding was designed initially as a ventilated double skin with interstitial louvers for energy efficiency, but unfortunately this was omitted during construction for cost reasons. So a new unitary system of high-performance glass was selected in its place, and care was taken to ensure that sufficient transparency was achieved to allow the structural diagrid to be seen clearly through it. Another distinguishing feature on the otherwise plain curved curtain walling system is the double floor horizontal bands of the refuge and intermediate plant floors, which have a different glazing module with a hit and miss arrangement to allow ventilation. At the very top, the glazing continues beyond the uppermost floors, and which gives the appearance of hopefully gives the appearance of the walls fading into the sky, and there's no spire or projecting mast because of the helicopter landing pad, which was requested by the fire officer as part of the evacuation strategy. Being a surprisingly unusual addition to a super high-rise tower, the helicopter landing pad has been designed as a sculptural element that overhangs the top of the glazing. Now, I'd like to talk a little bit about the diagrid structure. It provides a strong visual contrast to the smooth glass curved form, and structurally it acts as an exoskeletal frame, which provides the rigidity to withstand the horizontal wind forces in place of the more normal heavy outrigger column structures. This was conceived in close collaboration with Arup, who were always looking for innovative and efficient solutions. The Guangzhou IFC is the tallest building where this form of structure has been used, and the major benefits it offers are rigidity and flexibility of layout. There's been no need for dampers to reduce horizontal movement, and it's been possible to accommodate a large atrium without any major additional bracing structure. The diagrid, combined with a central core, provides gravity and lateral resistance. It's also a good arrangement for seismic design. The diagrid system behaves as an external tube which is fully braced, so that most of the forces are transferred by axial force, which makes it more efficient than a moment-type frame. The geometry was developed for efficiency and visual appearance, which has resulted in a giant order of diamonds 54 meters tall, spanning between 12 office floors and 16 hotel floors. For efficiency and ease of construction, the frame is a composite structure of concrete-filled steel tubes. The joints extend between 2 floors and node out on the horizontal floor structure. Tube sizes vary from 2 meters diameter at the lower floors to 1.1 meters diameter at the upper floors. They look huge close up, but quite modest within the overall scale of the building. The central core, which served the offices, was constructed in reinforced concrete with a climb form system. Its shape was determined by the lift configuration and the briefing requirement to provide flexible access for multiple letting of the office space. Altogether, there are 71 lifts in the building, of which 52 serve the office floors, 15 serve the hotel, and 4 for the car park. A central triangular core arrangement contains 9 double-decker high-speed lifts, which serve the key refuge floors from which local lifts connect to the intermediate floors. This system provides fast and convenient access from the ground floor reception to the individual office floors. 2 stairs provide means of escape, and these are lobbied at each refuge floor. Toilets for each floor are designed to make use of the vacant spaces between local lift shafts where they tail off, and adequate space has been provided for the vertical services risers. Through careful planning of the core, an average net to gross ratio of 70% has been achieved for the office floors and 68.9% overall. Flexibility is important, and the plan shape works well as a single office let, or alternatively, it divides easily into 3 distinct areas, each with its own access to the core. There is a potential for open plan layout or for subdivision into cellular spaces. And although we were not appointed for the interior design, I'd like to show some recent photographs of the internal spaces, starting with the ground floor office lobby. And then this is the hotel reception on the 70th floor. You can get an idea of the scale of this structure, which is all visible. But I don't mind that. When the hotel operator first looked at it, he said, "It's great, but can you get rid of the columns?" We said, "Unfortunately, you couldn't. You have to make a feature of it." But in a way, I think they're very happy with them because it's very distinctive, and it's very different from the huge mega columns, which would be the alternative. Looking at the atrium, this was our first concept design, where we were trying to achieve a quality of light, a crystalline sort of form to it. Because 34 stories is quite tall, and I've noticed in a lot of hotels, the atrium spaces are quite dark and dingy. So that was what we tried to achieve. This is what has been achieved. This is a nighttime photograph, and you can begin to see that by faceting the balustrading, we have managed to achieve a little bit of that crystalline nature that we were hoping to. And on the upper 8 floors, where we had to provide a smoke screen, we faceted the glass to create this kaleidoscopic effect with the crystalline form. So we got somewhere near to what we were trying to achieve. This is a corridor to the typical hotel floor at the upper level. And this is in the lobby area. Again, as I said, we weren't involved in the design of the interiors, although we were consulted. And it's very much over to the hotel to decide what the appearance of the spaces will be like. Now, as an architect, I'm very much a hands-on person, but when it gets to these major projects, it's very difficult to keep any sort of control, particularly for a project in China, away from our main office. But I watched with great joy and pleasure how the construction was achieved. It started in December 2005, only 5 months after we were appointed. And it started with this opening ceremony, and I loved the picture of the lady in her best clothes demonstrating the process of digging out the foundations. And then, of course, it proceeded at quite a speed, particularly with the core. And the framing, the exoskeletal frame, was a little bit more complex because with it not being vertical, each node is difficult to set out. And there were some complications at the beginning, but they very soon got the hang of it. And all the elements were prefabricated in large sections, so it was fairly easy to construct. So this is one of the node points, which actually is the height of 2 floors, so it's over 8 meters high. You get an idea of the scale of it. And but once it's in place, it doesn't look so large. And then you get this photograph, which I really like, on the right-hand side, which is very much like those early skyscrapers in New York and Chicago. And it's very exciting to see how they managed to work at these heights and scale. And then, of course, the glazing going in. There were, on the bottom left here, these are sample panels of glass, which we were testing out the transparency levels, trying to choose a glass that would cut out the sun as much as possible, but allow us to see the diagrid behind the glass wall. And here is one of the most recent photographs on a typical smoggy day in Guangzhou. Unfortunately, sometimes the light isn't too clear. But what I'm pleased about is that it looks very much like the original computer images. Because I've always said that when the building turns out to be quite different from what I expected, that's the day I give up architecture. It hasn't happened yet, so I'm still practicing, and I'm getting quite old. So hopefully I'll be able to see it through with all the buildings looking pretty much as I expected. So here's the day and the night vision. And here is the last slide. And I'd just like to end with my little statement, that I hope that the building stands out on the Guangzhou skyline as a super tall tower with an elegantly curved shape, clad with a smooth glazed skin, which is visually enriched by the appearance of the diagrid structure behind. Architecturally, it's a simple form with a clear expression of its functions and materials of construction. There are no embellishments. Thank you.